Nouns of direct address. What does it mean if you address someone? You're speaking directly to them. Who said that? All right. So when we speak to someone, we set that person off with commas. Bill, comma. Mr. Gomez is in the middle, so we put comma before and after. Okay? I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this slide, but I'm going to point out a comma that normally we omit. We all know that we use commas with dates and addresses, okay? If I put May 7th, 2010 on the board, y'all would put a comma after 7. If I put Nashville, Tennessee, you'd put a comma after Nashville. This is the comma that we often omit. After the state, if the state is not the last item in a sentence, okay? After the date, if the year is not the last item in a sentence, okay? I was looking at scholarship essays over the weekend on one of the scholarship committees that I'm on, and probably at least 3 of the essays that I looked at left that comma right there out, okay? So you always use a comma after the year if it's not the last item when you have a full, like day, month, and year, and we always use a comma after the state, okay? This one you might see, coordinate adjectives. Ladies, tell me what it means if you coordinate your outfit. What does it mean? You make it match. So if we have adjectives that match, how do we know if they match? We can switch them. Could we say a sunny, warm day? Yes. But would we say a hockey tough team? I hope not. So because we can switch these, we need a comma. Somebody said a while ago what non-essential was. If we can take it out and it doesn't change the meaning of our sentence, we set it off with commas. Okay? Here's the most important comma rule of all, guys. Do not use unnecessary commas. How many of you know that after you take certain ACT tests, you can pay extra money and get a copy of the test that you took along with your answers? You can do that. The December test, you can do it, and the June test, and I'm not sure, but if you check with ACT, you can see. So after you take the test and you get your score back, you can order the exact test you took, and they will send you your answers and the right answers, okay? We did this for one of my children, and every comma question on there was no commas needed on that particular test. Now, it won't necessarily be that way tomorrow, but every comma question, there was like 4, was no commas needed, okay? But I would advise you to pay the extra money, I think it's like $17, and get that test, and then you can see what you missed and get your teachers to go over with you what you did. This next thing here, probably, on your sheet, you've got some comma rules. It says, if I don't learn English this semester, I'll be very unhappy. That comma's correct. Why don't we have a comma in the second sentence on your comma rules sheet? I'll have to take this class again because I did not make the grade. Raise your hand and tell me why we don't have a comma there. Come on, guys. Some of you know. Why don't I have a comma with because? Back there. Exactly, because the subordinate clause is at the end of the sentence, so we don't need a comma there. Who can tell me what concise means? Who can tell me what concise means? Y'all are asleep. Nikki, what's concise mean? I'm sorry? To the point. To the point. That's exactly right. What does redundant mean? Repetitive. Saying the same thing over and over. Before you mark no error tomorrow on the English portion of the test, see if there's a way that you could say it more concisely in your answer choices, or if there's a way that they omitted something that was repeated, okay? This is probably the one trick that kids come back and tell me that helps their English score go up more than any of the others, is looking for concise sentences and avoiding redundancy. All right, so let's look at these examples. Look at this first example. At this point in time, we can't ascertain the reason as to why the screen door was left open. Does that sound wordy? How could we say that more concisely? Somebody hadn't answered. Come on. Who could say that in fewer words? Okay, Ryan.
You can remove at this point in time.
You can remove at this point in time. we can't ascertain the reason as to why the screen door was left open. We can do it better than that. Can anybody make it more concise? All right, Taylor.
Could you take out the reason as to?
Okay, so say the whole sentence for me in the shortest version you can do.
We can ascertain that I just remembered something.
Why don't we just say we don't know why the screen door was open? Would that work? Would that work?
Yes.
Yes. Look at the next one. My sister, who's employed as a nutritionist at the University of Michigan, recommends the daily intake of mega doses of vitamin C. Does that sound wordy? So if that question were on the ACT tomorrow, you would want to say it a lot shorter. What would you say?
Just remove who is employed
We could-
as a nutrition
Good. We could remove the clause.
of Michigan.
So we would say my sister recommends the daily intake of mega doses of vitamin C. Why would we remove that clause? Why does it have commas around it? It's non-essential. Good. We're going to kind of move down. I want to go down to the very last one here. And then we might go back to 4. What is your basic understanding of predestination? If you can answer that in 2 words, we'll give you 2 pieces of bubble gum. What is your basic understanding of predestination? If you can answer that in 2 words, if you can change it to just a 2-word sentence, I'll give you a hint. It needs to be imperative. Needs to be imperative. Well, give me your best guess. We'll give you a piece of bubble gum just for trying. Predetermined path, but we got to make it a sentence. You're on the right track. Imperative sentence.
Understand predestination.
Understand predestination. That doesn't quite do it, but you're on the right track. Explain predestination. We could do that whole sentence in those 2 words. Explain predestination. Now, here's our answers to those sentences. You have those on your sheet there. I don't think that we have a redundant. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Good. All right, now, let's look at these and see what we could take out to make them less redundant. Look at the first sentence. A great deal of interest and concern was shown by the investigation panel. Does anybody see anything in there we could take out? What?
Could you take out everything?
Why could we take out concern and concern?
It's basically covered in the word of this.
Interest and concern are the same thing, so we don't need both of them. Most of you all, and me too, when I first started taking the ACT, if I had seen this sentence on the ACT, I would have marked no error. Because there's not a grammatical error in it, but the problem is that interest and concern is the same thing, so we can say it more concisely. Number 2, the decision was completely unanimous. Anybody do anything with that one for me? What can we take out, Nikki?
Completely,
Why?
because unanimous means like all.
Unanimous means everybody. Unanimous means everything. So we don't need completely. Number 3, somebody hadn't answered yet. Number 3, we knew the thief was in the close proximity of the scene. Somebody hadn't answered yet. Can you make it more concise? Take out some redundancy. Are you a junior? Okay. Okay. Anybody? Jaya? Why?
Because proximity is in that area.
Exactly. Proximity means close. Our coach said we would cooperate together. Everybody, what's wrong with that? If we cooperate, what are we doing? We're working together. And the last one, and I see this a lot. I see this in like newspaper articles and stuff. Briefly summarize. What's wrong with that? Briefly that's right. If we summarize, we're making it brief. Anybody have any questions so far? All right, subject-verb agreement. I guarantee you this will be on the ACT. Guarantee it'll be on the ACT. I'm not going to read this slide to you, but I'm going to tell you the most important thing.
If you see on the examples that it has a little star beside it, then it's on your sheet.
Thank you, Ms. Fultz. If it has a star beside it, it's on your sheet. I'm not going to read this whole slide, but I'm going to give you the hint from this slide. Most of the time, if your subject ends in S, your verb will not end in S. Most of the time, if your subject ends in S, your verb will not end in S. So looking at your example, the horses runs or the horses run fast. What would it be? Run. Good. Miss Fult's up here in the front. Now, intervening phrases. What does it mean if something intervenes? It interrupts. Intervening phrases do not change subject-verb agreement. You first have to find your subject. Where can subjects and predicates never come? In a prepositional phrase. So if we look at this example with the star, the person who sings Baby Blues is or are here. What's our subject? Person. So would we say the person is here or the person are here? Willie Nelson, along with other famous musicians, has or have played Bonnaroo. What's our subject? Willie Nelson. Why is it not musicians? It's in a prepositional phrase. So we would say Willie Nelson played Bonnaroo. Indefinite pronouns. This is the ones that are the hardest on subject-verb agreement. There are 5 indefinite pronouns that are always plural. Several others, both, many, few. Do they sound plural? They sound like there's more than one? Yes. So when you have one of these, your verb's going to be plural, which means it's not going to end in S. So if we look up here, some of the girls is or are upset. What's our subject? It's not girls because girls is in a prepositional phrase. So what's our subject? Some. But what is some referring to? Girls. So would we say the girls is or the girls are? Are. The last one, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, okay? Neither of the records was or were broken. How many of you think it's was? Raise your hand. We're not giving bubble gum to everybody that raises their hand either. How many of you think it's was? How many of you think it's were? How many of you don't know? All right, let's see if we can figure it out. What's our subject? Neither. Is neither in that list that's plural? No, it's not. So what should our verb be? Was. Okay? You have 5 that are always plural, several others, both, many, few. Then you have these 6 that can be singular or plural. All, any, most, none, or some. All the rest of them are singular. Is everyone singular or plural?
Singular.
Singular. It sounds plural, doesn't it? It sounds like it's more than one person. But if you put a verb with it, would we say everyone is late or everyone are late? Everyone is late. Now, compound subjects, when they're joined by and, if I say John and Jake, how many am I talking about? 2. So we'd need a plural verb, right? Cass and Kel were in the game. But if we have 2 subjects that are joined by either an or, neither nor, we look at the subject that is physically closer to the verb. Guys, if your head's down, I'm going to call on you, and you're going to answer in front of everybody, so you better keep your head up and be awake. All right, do what now? Yeah, that piece of gum for trying, Miss Fultz. He wants this piece of gum. Now you got to answer one of these to get that piece of gum. How about that? Let's look at the first one. The teacher or the students is leading us. What are our subjects, group? Teacher and students. Which one's closer to is or are? Teacher or students? Would we say the students is or the students are? Good. Look at the next one, though. It's the same sentence. We just reversed the subject order. Students or teacher? Which one's closer? Would it be teacher is or teacher are? Teacher is. Agreement problems with contractions. If you will break those contractions down, you won't have agreement problems. This is how we talk. Where's the keys? That's how all of us talk. But if we break that down into 2 separate words, where is the keys? Make that a sentence. The keys is where? Doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Here's the last thing we're going to talk about, subject-verb agreement. If you have each, every, or many at the beginning of a sentence, your verb is going to end in S, always. If you have each, every, or many at the beginning of a sentence, your verb is going to end in S. Look at your examples on your sheet. We've answered most of these. Let's go to number 6. A man should not be forced to serve his or their country. Who are we talking about? So it would be? Good. Tell John and Tom I will see them. That's pronoun antecedent agreement, which we're getting to right now. And pronoun antecedents are just like subject-verb agreements. What's an antecedent? What is an antecedent? If I say, okay, it's a word to which pronoun refers. If I say John broke his leg, who is his referring to? John. And his has to be singular because John is singular, okay? Now, if we look up here at the one with a star by it, and we just did it, a man should not be forced to serve his country. Why is it his? Who's it referring to? Man. Now, going down to either and or. If you see John or Tom, am I talking about both of them or am I talking about one or the other? So it would be tell him. Good. Just like the indefinite pronouns that we talked about with subject-verb agreement, we have to be careful. This is one of the most common mistakes I see on essays when I'm grading them, is we will say the readers and then we'll say his. If readers is plural, then we have to use their. Or we will say a reader gave their opinion, but it should be his or her because reader's singular. So looking up here, all of the girls brought her or their money. What's it referring to? Girls. So it would be?
Her.
No. There if it's all. Look at the very last sentence on the video screen up here. Raise your hand when you know the answer. Raise your hand when you know the answer. Right here. His. Why? Very good. Each is singular. Any questions about indefinite pronouns? Sentence fragments and run-ons. If you have a fragment of glass, what do you have? A piece of glass. If you have a fragment of a sentence, you have a piece of a sentence. Who can tell me what a run-on sentence is? Somebody said it, but I don't know where you are. Back there. That's right, and it doesn't have what with it? The proper punctuation. Exactly right. So a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. Every sentence has to have a subject and a verb. Trick question. Can a sentence ever be one word?
Yes.
Give me an example.
Go.
Go is a sentence. That's exactly right. What's the subject of that sentence? You, because it's an imperative sentence. Run-on sentence is two sentences put together without the right punctuation. You can't just stick a comma between two independent clauses. What did we learn earlier that you put between two independent clauses? Semicolon. Very good. All right, so you're going to tell me if these are sentences, fragments, or run-ons. Let's do the first one. Raise your hand when you know. Sentence, fragment, or run-on. Ryan.
Run-on.
You say it's a run-on. All right, you got to have two independent clauses in there if it's a run-on. Right here.
Fragment.
It is a fragment. Very good. We don't have a complete sentence. We know the second one, everybody knows it's a sentence because we understood subject of you. The third one, raise your hand when you know if it's a sentence, fragment, or run-on. I got to get more hands than these up here. Come on, you guys back there in the back, wake up. Somebody in the orange shirt over there. Sentence, fragment, or run-on? Was her hand up? Or were you stretching? Well, take a guess. You got a 1 in 3 chance. Sentence, fragment, or run-on. The meeting will be held immediately after school, comma, all officers are required to attend.
It's a sentence.
It's actually a run-on. It's two sentences stuck together. Now, what makes it wrong? Because we just have the comma in the middle. If we had an and, or if we had a semicolon, then it would be correct. The last one is a sentence because we have our dependent clause at the beginning. I'll give a... who can tell me why we have the comma after morning? Why do we have a comma after morning? Say it again. It's a dependent clause. Good. Principal parts of verbs. This is kind of a fun slide that we're going to do. Verbs have, basically, we talk about 3 principal parts. We talk about present, past, and past participle. Regular verbs are easy. They form their past by D or ED and their past participle the same way, but they always have a helping verb with past participle. So today I walked, yesterday I walked, and I have walked. Now, look at the irregular verbs. Look at swim. 3 principal parts of swim. Johnny, is that your chapstick? Pick it up, please. Look at swim. Swim, swam, but have swum. Swum sounds plum country, but if it's got a helping verb with it, it's correct. Look at swing. Look at the verb swing. What do we say in the South? Today we swing, yesterday we... But swing's no word. There's no such word. It's swing, swung, and have swung. Another one I want to point out is burst. Notice what happens to burst through the 3 principal parts. It doesn't what? It doesn't change. A couple of more things, guys. If y'all stay with me, we're going to finish up here. Somebody tell me the answer to the first one with the asterisk up there. Number 1. What's the answer? Somebody hadn't answered. Come on. John has wrote to the president about the problem. What's wrong with it? Somebody at this table over here. Look at number 1. Give me an answer. What's wrong with it? Yep, what should it be? John has... Should be John has written. John has written. Look at number 3. We have swung in the tire swing once before. We don't use swing. Swing doesn't exist. So what's wrong with it? Nothing. It is correct. Number 7, June bursted the balloon. It should just be burst. Last one, he has rode that horse many times. What should it be? Some of you all know, you just won't answer. You know, I can tell by looking at you, you know. He has what? Ridden that horse many times. Troublesome verbs. Real quickly, guys. Set, lay, and raise will always have a direct object after them. You will have a noun following those verbs. Example, we had sat or set for hours. Is there anything that we put down there? No, so it's going to be sat. Please rise or raise the shades. What are we lifting up? So what's our verb? Raise. He lay or laid the tile. What are we putting down? So it's laid. If lay, raise, and set are always going to have a direct object, okay? Try to remember that tomorrow. Look at the one down there. I had lain in bed for 3 days. Anytime it's talking about someone resting or reclining, it's going to be a form of the verb lie. And L-A-I-N is always going to be someone or something that is resting or reclining. Parallelism, real quickly. What's wrong with this example sentence up here? Racing, skiing, and to play basketball are his favorite sports. What's your name? I can't remember your name.
Oh, it should be basketballing.
Basketballing? Now let's think about that. Do we basketball?
Sure.
What should it be, class? Racing, skiing, and playing basketball are our favorite sports. It's not parallel.
I like basketballing better.
Connecting with correlative conjunctions. Correlative conjunctions, we call them correlative conjunctions. They have a relative with them. In other words, they have something that goes with them. Susan not only liked opera, but also some jazz. On correlative conjunctions, I'm going to take some phones up. Correlative conjunctions need to go right before the words they're joining. So actually it should be Susan liked not only opera, but also jazz, because those are the things that we're combining. Last thing we're going to talk about today, guys, illogical shifts. If we start in past tense, we need to stay in past tense. If we start in present tense, we need to stay in present, unless time changes. Example, I started writing my essay last night at 9 p.m. and then, what should it say instead of finish? Finished it. Good. We also want to make sure that we have our pronouns stay the same. Example, everyone can become a good writer once you learn how to revise and edit. Everyone and you are 2 different persons, so it should say everyone can become a good writer once he or she learns. Also, our point of view, if we start out in first person, we want to stay with first person. Don't shift back and forth. Jill and I started the report and it was finished by another team. This is voice, okay? Active and passive voice. So if Jill and I started it, what did the other team do? They finished it. So to fix that, Jill and I started the report and another team finished it. Thank y'all guys, you've been wonderful. Thanks for your attention. Look at your sheet to see where to move.